Hey grade twos, how are you? I hope everyone is doing well. I am on chapter 2 of Freckle Juice. I don't remember if you recall what happened at the end of chapter 1, but I will give you a quick little summary of what happened. We ended the chapter 1 with Sharon telling Andrew that she might have a recipe for how he can get freckles, and he had to bring in some money the next day. So let's find out. Chapter 2. You might want to, before I continue reading, you might want to get your reader response journal so you can do some writing and thinking. You might also want your post-it notes. So when you have a question or a comment, you can write it down on your post-it note, because good readers think as they are reading. So here I'm doing the reading, so you should be able to do the thinking while I am reading to you. Here we go, chapter 2. That night, Andrew had trouble sleeping. He kept thinking about freckle juice. Maybe the reason no one in his family had freckles was because no one knew the secret recipe. If they never even heard of freckle juice, then how could they have any freckles? It figured. Here's his dream. Oh, I like how he's counting the money of how much money he needs to bring to Sharon the next day. Andrew didn't like the idea of paying Sharon for anything, and 50 cents was a lot of money. It was 5 whole weeks of allowance. Pause. How much money do you think he gets a week? If 50 cents, it takes him 5 weeks to get 50 cents. Pause the video, think about it, and hopefully you have an answer. But he decided that if Sharon's recipe didn't work, he'd ask for his money back. It was easy. The next morning, Andrew turned the combination of his safe bank to just the right numbers. 4 on top and 0 on the bottom. He took out, how many dimes? 5 dimes. He wrapped them up in a tissue and stuffed the whole thing in his pocket. He didn't have time to wash his ears or neck or anything. He wanted to see Sharon before the last bell rang. "Bye, Mom," Andrew called. "Andrew Marcus, wait a minute." His mom hurried over to him. She almost tripped over her long bathrobe. The curlers in her hair scratched Andrew's face as she checked his ears and his neck. Lady made a surprise hello. "Please, Mom, can we skip it just this once?" Andrew begged. Mrs. Marcus stepped away from Andrew. She pointed a finger at him. "Okay," she said, "I'll let you go this time, but tomorrow I'm looking again. And Andrew, zip up your pants." Andrew looked down. Zippers were a pain. "This afternoon, when you come home, I'll be next door. Mrs. Burrows invited me over to play cards. You come get the key from me, okay?" "Sure, Mom, okay." Andrew raced to school. He could hardly wait to see the secret recipe. First, he'd look at it, and if it didn't seem any good, he just wouldn't pay. And Sharon was already at her desk when Andrew arrived. He went right over to her. "Did you bring it?" he asked. "Bring what?" Sharon opened her eyes really wide. "You know what? The secret recipe for freckle juice." "Oh, that. I have it right here." Sharon patted her pocket. "Well, let's see it." "Do you have the 50 cents? Sharon asked. "Sure, right here." Andrew patted his pocket. Ooh, who's going to give the money or the recipe first? "I'm not going to show it to you until you pay," Sharon said. Andrew shook his head. "Oh, no, first I want to see it." "Sorry, Andrew, a deal's a deal." Sharon opened her book and pretended to read. "Andrew Marcus," Miss Kelly said, "will you please sit down?" The second bell just rang. This morning we'll be beginning math. Nikki, please pass out the yellow paper. When you get your paper, begin working on the problems on the board. Andrew went to his seat. Then he took the tissue with 5 dimes out of his pocket. He held it near the floor and aimed it towards Sharon. She sat in the next row. Sharon stuck out her foot and stepped on the tissue. Then she slid it over until she could reach it with her hand. She bent down and picked it up. Miss Kelly didn't notice. Sharon counted the 5 dimes. Then she took out a piece of folded white paper out of her pocket and threw it to Andrew. How many people have a prediction of what might happen next? So Sharon didn't get caught by Miss Kelly. Do you think maybe Andrew will get caught by Miss Kelly? It landed in the middle of the aisle. Andrew leaned all the way over to pick it up, but he lost his balance and fell off his chair. Everybody laughed except Andrew and Miss Kelly. Miss Kelly sighed. Oh, Andrew, what are you up to now? Bring me that note, please. Andrew picked up the secret recipe. He didn't even have a chance to see it. It wasn't fair. It cost him 50 cents for nothing. He handed it to Miss Kelly. She read it. Then she looked up at him. Andrew, you can have this back at 3 o'clock. She put it in her desk. I don't want this to happen again. Do you understand? Yes, Miss Kelly, Andrew mumbled. Good. Now let's get started on math. Miss Kelly wasn't bad, Andrew decided. She could have ripped up the recipe or sent him to the principal's office, or even made him stand outside in the hall by himself. Andrew could hardly wait for 3 o'clock to come. He didn't bother counting Nicky Lane's freckles. Soon he'd have his own. When the second bell finally rang and the class marched down the hall, Andrew went up to Miss Kelly. Here's a picture. Did you picture Miss Kelly looking like this? You might have drawn a picture of her, of what you thought she looked like. She held the piece of white paper and waved it at him. Here's your note, Andrew. I have a feeling it's important to you. But from now on, you must pay attention in class. Andrew took the recipe from Miss Kelly. After tomorrow, I won't have any trouble paying attention, he promised. Just you wait, Miss Kelly. I won't have any trouble at all. Chapter 3. Bum, bum, bum. So you might want to spend your time in your reader response, maybe making a connection to a part of the chapter. You might also want to draw a picture of what you were visualizing in the story. You might want to make a prediction of what's going to happen in chapter 3, and you might want to label and what would you call chapter 2. So there's a couple of things you can do for this read aloud, or you can just enjoy the reading. Hopefully you were thinking about the book as I was reading it. Have a great day. Bye, grade 2s.